On this episode of the No City on the Sideline Dad podcast, it's all about keeping his kids safe during the Halloween season, especially kids with their food allergies, especially with candy in Halloween, because that's kind of like what the fun part of it is going trick or treating and stuff. Today, my guest, Katherine Kise, board certified health coach for clean wellness junkie, author of the book Kate Can't Eat Nuts. How to have a conversation about food allergies with kids. Welcome to the podcast, Katherine.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, welcome. I really do appreciate you being here. And I know the Halloween season, we're going to talk about food allergies. We're going to talk about keeping kids safe during the Halloween season because nowadays, I remember as kids, I remember as a kid, I don't know if you remember, I was going trick or treating and stuff. And that was I think the number one goal was who could fill the biggest bag up first. And that
Yes.
was the most fun. And having fun doing that and stuff like that, going house to house and everybody goes crazy decorating for Halloween, candy and stuff like that. What was your experience during the Halloween season for you and when you were young?
Well, I always loved it. And it's interesting now to kind of pay attention to the weather as it
Mhm.
is these days versus when I was a kid. Because I felt like or when I was a kid and I would dress up in my costume, I always had to have a jacket. And I always felt bummed that like that jacket would cover up parts of my Halloween costume. And so now I feel like we never know what, and I'm in Atlanta too, so we have much more temperate winters and falls. So it's always kind of a toss up what the weather will be like as an adult dressing up for Halloween, let alone like hosting kids or trick or treaters or whatnot. But as a kid, I remember trick or treating with my friends. It was just such a fun time. It's definitely one of those um, memorable social events, I think, as a kid. And I remember having a sense of independence because my parents would let me like trick or treat through our neighborhood without them having to be there because it was a fairly safe neighborhood. I was with usually a group of girls, or maybe like one of their parents was tagging along. And it was always just like a lot of fun and freedom is what I remember. Yeah. What about you? What do you remember?
I remember having a big trash bag going door to door and coming up with the costumes every year.
Yeah.
And I remember one year, my stepfather we made our costumes that year. We're not the typical with with the sheet with the two eyes and the mouth
Yeah.
as for like a ghost, but actually took a couple boxes and made a robot. I think that was the most
Oh my gosh. That's really cool.
creative way of. I wanted to go buy it. I'd be honest with you. I was one of those kids. Come on, let's go buy that one. Was it plastic with the mask? Nope, we're making it this year.
Wow.
So being creative with the light bulbs and making a robot, I think that was a lot of fun. That was one of the childhood experiences I think that are kind of missed nowadays.
Hmm. Did he involve you in making it too? Like, did you help him make it, or did he make it for you?
I think I did it. He helped a little bit, but I don't remember the details. It was so long ago.
Yeah,
But it was one of those experiences that we weren't buying it this year. We're making it this year. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
But it was one creative way of doing it because
Mhm.
I remember like my son now, this not trick or treating. We're going to talk about food allergy in a second, but I think it's different now because now the kids are all more involved in different kinds of characters and
Yes.
I've gone trick or treating with my son and I'm blown away by some of the costumes. I used to have like a mask of our superhero. I think it was
Mhm.
like a plastic sheet that had
Yes,
like Superman's logo on it, and that was it.
yes.
Nowadays, people it's like another whole industry.
The whole yes, and even now, like with Marvel too, I feel like the superhero costumes, like what you were saying, are complete on a whole different level than they were when we were kids. It was like I remember you would step into it, and it would either tie in the back or it would like
Yeah.
I think it tied in the back. I don't even think there was any other enclosure. Like you tied it, and that was that. And yeah, you couldn't barely breathe through the mask. Do you remember, like right around your mouth, there was like
Oh, yep.
oh god, you couldn't breathe, and so you'd have to like lift it up. And yeah, now it's a very different degree, very different sophistication.
Well, interesting too. Also, the candy has involved too, and as we get
Mhm.
older, it's different stuff now. I'm surprised. I go to my son's candy. There's still the typical chocolate like Hershey's, Kit
Mhm.
Kats, and stuff like that. But I remember the experiences. There's no open candy, and
Yep.
no apples because at the time we were afraid of some people poisoning in them.
Yes. Yes. Actually, in prepping for this, I was talking to my mom about various tips for healthy tricks and treats and like things she might have given to me so that I could pass them on to your viewers. And that was actually something that she mentioned was the apples. And growing up, she was like, you can't give them fruit because somebody might have put a razor blade in it or they might have poisoned it. And I was like, really? That was did that actually happen, or was that like an urban legend? I didn't do the research to confirm, but to hear you say that, yeah, it definitely rings true.
I think it might have been urban legend. I'm not quite sure myself either because I think kids they don't want no healthy stuff. Just give me all the
Right.
sugar, sugar, sugar,
Yes.
sugar, sugar. Um,
Yes.
during the Halloween when you went trick or treating as a kid, what was your favorite candy?
What's funny is I didn't like the chocolate, which
Mhm.
worked out very well for my mom because she'd be like, "Well, let me check. This might have nuts in it." And it started off as a very safe, like she was being serious, but then she would be silly and she would like take just regular chocolate that had nothing, and she would completely benefit from my hoard, my stash. But I loved the Laffy Taffies, the Now and Laters. Do you remember those? They were like
Mm.
super hard taffies that stuck to your teeth and lasted forever. Yeah, I loved all the fruity and the really sour stuff. Those were
Uh,
my cues.
mine was the jelly beans. I like the jelly beans. Jelly beans are my favorite.
Okay.
If
Okay.
you had a couple of Kit Kats thrown in there, that's fine, but the jelly beans were my favorite and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I brought you on tonight was talk about this afternoon actually talk about food allergies during the Halloween season with kids. You yourself had a nut allergy and stuff like that. What a book we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But what kind of background do you have in food allergies?
Yeah. So I grew up with them. So I had the nut allergy as a child, ever since I was one, definitely since I could speak. So it
Hmm.
started very, very early. And then later in life, I developed a dairy and a gluten intolerance where it's for gluten, it's not only digestive issues for me, but it also presents as symptoms of multiple sclerosis. So it's
Oh
kind of
wow.
a serious, yeah, it's a serious sensitivity. So for me, my background was life experience. And then as I realized that this is a very serious topic and one that is becoming more and more common, there are 2 children in every classroom, the statistics show, that has some sort of a food allergy. I think we've grown in the list of allergens from 3 or 4 when I was little to now 9 as the official list of um, common allergens that are required to be listed on food labels. So my as I realized this, I thought that there was an opportunity for me to take the experience I had and supplement it with a formal training to
Mhm.
become more effective in my community and in people's lives to help them navigate these sorts of situations. So I went back to school and became a board certified health coach. So I have the formal credentials as well as the life school of school. What do they say when it's like
School of
you
Hard
get your
Knocks or
school of hard knocks? That's right. Yeah, yeah.
what is a board certified wellness coach?
So a health coach is basically just like any coach that you would think of, like for soccer, where
Mhm.
you help your client identify what is it that stands in their way and where do they want to go. So what's the goal? How are they struggling to get there, or why? And sometimes the work is helping them uncover why they, whether it's the goal is to lose weight, and some people have trouble understanding what their triggers are, but then once you reveal their triggers to them for why they might be reaching for those cookies at 2 p.m. every day, it's an easier road to walk down, and then they're able to navigate how to achieve their goal with like certain milestones and things like that. In other cases, it's helping someone who might be diagnosed with a food sensitivity learn how to eat safely without feeling overwhelmed. So it's helping someone understand where do they want to go, why do they want to get there, and what stands in their way, and making it accessible and doable instead of intimidating and mysterious and overwhelming.
What are some of your experiences of not realizing, like making a mistake and having the food allergies? What were
Mm.
some of the kind of reactions and how did you deal with it?
Yeah. So, especially with nuts, nuts are hidden in a lot of things. And for me, that's my most serious allergy. So that's kind of why I mentioned that one specifically. And I've definitely bumped up against, even as an adult, being in a restaurant and speaking to somebody who says, "Oh no, it's fine. You can have this," and I ended up in the ER. And
Oh, wow.
so it's, yeah. So it can be very hard, especially when the staff of the restaurant or the eatery or the cafe aren't educated, and that can be very difficult. So sometimes it's having to say like, "Does this have?" and actually saying, almonds, pecans, pistachios, macadamia nuts, and actually telling them like, I cannot have these things, I will die. And having them check the ingredients with the kitchen. In other cases with gluten, for instance, I accidentally ate gluten last week. And so for me, it was just a matter of like, okay, so that happened. I have to kind of forgive myself and take a deep breath and figure out, how do I manage how I feel now, and sort of just give myself the permission to be tired and not feel that well, and maybe not perform at the peak that I might otherwise, because I'm not feeling well and I happen to have made a mistake and eaten something I shouldn't.
Was interesting too. People don't realize the hidden, like you said, hidden stuff in the ingredients and stuff like that. And if you're not really paying attention, you can get yourself in a really big bind and that stuff like that.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Well, this time during the year, this trick or treating, I know all
Yeah.
the kids are looking forward to it. I know my son is. We got the costume. We're ready to go. It's a Fortnite character. I had no idea who this person is, but it's a skull guy. It's a skull guy.
Okay.
It's basically a skeleton. It looks like a glow in the dark guy.
Oh,
Well,
cool.
one of the things now I know in the past going trick or treating with him and stuff, there's always people passing out all kinds of candy.
Yes.
And what are some things we need to look out for when we're going trick or treating with the kids? Some kids will have food allergies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. So if it's your kid, I'll take a simple example. If it's your child and you're aware of their food allergies, um, be also, and you likely are as a parent, you're aware of what those common violators are. So if your kid has a nut allergy, you know an almond joy is going to be a problem. You know peanut butter or peanut M&Ms are going to be a problem. It's some of those more all natural snacks or healthier snacks that might have hidden nuts in them. And if you aren't sure about it, or if your child has not had it before, I would say like, inform your kid, empower your kid. Hey, if you haven't had it before, just wait till you get home. Let's check the ingredients. If it's not listed, because, you know, when you buy, for instance, like a snack bag like this, if you look at it, sometimes they don't have the ingredients listed because it was on the big packaging. So you can go on the internet and check the ingredients if it is something that's unfamiliar and you aren't sure. I would say if you are trick-or-treating with a child's friend and maybe you're not as familiar with their allergies, ask their parents before you go, like, do any of your kids have food allergies or anything we need to be aware of? Ask the child. A lot of times they actually are educated on what they are allergic to. And then probably just have that same kind of conversation. Hey, if you're not familiar with this, don't eat it because we want to keep you safe. So just wait till you get home and let's, if you want a mid trick-or-treating treat, pick something that or, like usually the fruity candies are safer because they likely don't have gluten. They likely don't have nuts. And those I think are the and dairy. I think those are the biggest ones that you likely run up against and in the trick-or-treating adventure.
Well, it's interesting too. I was reading up, like preparing for this episode and stuff like that. And I didn't know this, but I guess I know now, is the teal pumpkin resource, the teal pumpkin free.
Yes.
It was on foodallergy.org. And I was found it very interesting too, about people as a whole thing about setting up a community, setting up about people in doing the alternative, instead of giving candy, giving out like coloring books, crayons and stuff like that.
Yes.
I found that very interesting. I don't know if you heard more about that.
Yeah, that's great. I would love that you brought that up. So the Teal Pumpkin Project is by Food Allergy. .org. It's a food allergy research. I can't remember what the E stands for, but they're a national organization who's all about education and safety for kids. And the Teal Pumpkin Project is basically having a teal pumpkin. You can paint one, which I did last weekend at the fall festival that I told you about. So you can paint one yourself. You can buy one, and you put it on where the kids will be trick-or-treating, so like a front porch or wherever you are. And it basically signifies that you have food allergy safe treats or non-food toys. So like you were saying, like crayons and coloring books, or like fun erasers, stickers, those plastic rings that are the spiders, or fidget toys, or things like that. And it's basically just an inclusive way for kids who do have a food allergy to still be involved in the festivities of trick or treat without having to worry about possibly eating something that could put them in danger.
What I was also reading too, and I thought it was interesting, was they even had like one had maps, even electronic map, but people like they will put their address that they were going to be involved in this, so it'd be like a map. Hey, listen, this house says this one, that one in the neighborhood, which I think that's great, because when trick or treat, you just don't know. You don't know
Yeah.
who until you see the pumpkin, the purple or teal pumpkin. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it was pretty interesting
That's
with the
so interesting. Yeah, I love that they leverage technology to enable that kind of initiative. I didn't know they did that, so I'm really glad that you told me about that. That's cool.
well, it's interesting too, though, but it does help though because you just don't know going house to house, and the kids are like, "Hey, well, this is what happened to my son. We had a bigger bag, and
Mm,
he would have a small bag, and he'd be like, Dad, time to dump it in the bag, run to the next house, dump it in the bag, run to the next house." By the end of the night, we walked the whole neighborhood. We're completely exhausted, and then we showed the candy when we got home, and Dad took a few for himself.
of course. Yeah. Payment.
One for the son, two for the father. That's
That's
how it
right.
works. It's
It
a
is.
payment for walking you around.
Yeah.
And so,
Compensation. That's great.
well, one thing is interesting too. You wrote a book about Kate's Can't Eat Nuts,
Okay.
and what is that book about?
So it is about the ordinary, extraordinary life of a girl with food allergies. So this is Katie.
Mhm.
Um, and it is about her experience being a kid who has a food allergy, but yet it doesn't slow her down in life. So she still has adventure. She still plays soccer. She makes pancakes with her dad. She is still a ballerina and she is very vivacious. You can tell with some of the pictures that the illustrator brilliantly did that she still has a lot of energy. You can see her here kind of talking to her friends about what she can have and what she can't. And it does educate kids about what Katie with a nut allergy can have rather than stressing what she can't have. So it puts a little bit more of that empowering, positive spin on it. It does talk about how she found out that she was allergic to nuts and then what she does with that information to share with her friends. And then in the activities section, do you remember that magazine Highlights?
Yes.
Okay, so it inspired. I loved Highlights growing up, and it inspired a lot of some of the activities. So there's like a riddle section. There's a decorate the pancakes. There's a match the socks. This one's the match the socks, and then also find the hidden pictures
Mhm.
here. So in the doctor's office, you can find like the hidden images. So it's a way to kind of engage the kids to be part of the adventure of Katie's ordinary, extraordinary life with food allergies.
Is it a book based on you?
It is. A lot of it is. But then some of it was a little supplemental. Like I didn't get to play soccer as a kid. I also had asthma. And so I wasn't allowed to like run around in the grass. And I always wished I could play soccer. So I gave Katie that opportunity that she gets to play soccer. But other than that, there's a lot of actually, there's more diversity in Katie's story. She has a
Mhm.
wider range of friends and other things that she is able to educate around. I think now she's lucky to come of age in this story at a time when food allergies have more awareness around them. And so there are probably a few scenes that are a little bit different than when I was growing up, but a lot of it is based on my experience as a kid growing up with a food allergy.
What are some of your experiences? I was kind of curious.
Oh yeah. Well, I always felt different as a kid
Mhm.
because I wasn't allowed free reign to just have anything. So when I went to somebody's house, I always had to be very careful, or I had to skip a snack because we didn't know what was in it, and I just felt different. And on top of that, because it was not only feeling different, but it was different because I was so susceptible to a life-threatening situation that
Mhm.
I always kind of felt over protected, and I always had to. I had this like very heavy weight of fear of a mistake because I knew what it could entail. So I think that throughout my childhood and then into my teenage years in college and now as an adult made me a little bit more risk averse and a little bit more not introverted, but maybe I kind of took a step back more so than other kids who really get in there and like really explore being a kid and like take risks and they take adventures and they do these things. And so I think that that's more the long lasting impact of some of those experiences as a kid. I've heard now that some kids are actually bullied based on their
Mhm.
food allergy. And thankfully, I never had that experience. I can't imagine what that would be like. That would be absolutely terrifying as a child to have that happen. But yeah, mine was mostly just feeling different.
Well, I know that my son's school, now he's in 3rd grade and stuff like that, and, they had a table for kids with food allergies, a certain table, and they took
Okay,
that away. But
good.
beginning of 1st grade, they used to you couldn't have peanut butter jelly sandwiches. But now You could bring it now. They can bring it, but there used to be a table for kids that food allergies. You couldn't bring peanuts. You had to like you had to
Mhm.
put a certain circle on it for like oh, what was it? Wow butter. That's what my alternative. But that is I know people have food allergies, but I'm not sure what exactly wow butter is made of.
Yep.
But
Yeah. Wow butter is made from actually roasted soybeans.
oh
Um,
wow.
so yeah, so it tastes more like peanut butter, but in my opinion, there's another one out that's called Sun Butter, and that one is made from that's the brand, but it's made from roasted sunflower seeds.
Mhm,
And then this is actually another one called Once Again,
mhm.
sunflower nut butter or sunflower seed butter, excuse me. Um, and those are my go-tos for, the substitutes when you just want that, like, that salty, nutty fat. I mean, it's good. It's really good
Yeah.
on peanut butter and jelly. Like, it's never the same as, like, to have to skip it. So I like those as alternatives. But yeah, I don't know. I think there are two schools of thought that I don't think it's cut and dry as to
Mhm.
isolating the kids with food allergies, because on one hand you want to keep them safe and away from a kid who might have brought a peanut butter sandwich, but having gone through the experience as a kid of feeling so different, it is very, very obvious that these kids are different in some capacity. And it's just, I don't know, you're a kid. You want to feel like you belong. We all, I mean, I don't care what age you are, you want to feel like you belong. But as a kid, you want to feel like you fit in. Like, life is hard enough as a kid. So I don't know. I kind of struggle with that one.
Well, what is like some suggestion? Maybe have that conversation when like, all right, you want to explain to your friends when you're in like third grade, but
Right.
how do you have that conversation about, hey, listen, I can't have that, or
Mhm,
this might make me really sick. But how do you start a conversation?
mhm. I think finding a way that is safe for the kid having the conversation, like having to express, this is what makes me different and this actually puts me in danger, and the kid who's receiving that information. So it's not that the kid who is receiving the information did anything wrong, because then they would be defensive and feel like very constricted and upset. um, but it's finding that, like, common ground where maybe that kid is left-handed. Okay, so, oh well, you're left-handed. That makes you different and unique. This is my thing about being different and unique, is I have to be careful about nuts. Or even having the conversation at a higher level, parent to parent, teacher to parent, parent to teacher, to just sort of lay the groundwork of, like, hey, this is what we need to be sensitive about with these kids. Um, and then helping the teacher to say it's not about what makes this person different as in wrong, but they
Hmm.
are just different as in unique, and talking about different ways that people are unique, I think becomes more of an inclusive approach to it, rather than, oh, hey, look out for Catherine. She's got nuts. If, it gives it a different tone and a different experience for the people hearing it, that hopefully makes it a little bit easier to digest and not, again, not as scary. Because anything I think that we don't understand, we are afraid,
Hmm.
and then we kind of shut down and we aren't as collaborative or inclusive as we could be if it's something we don't understand.
What kind of response have you gotten from the book?
It's been really positive, actually. Like, I've had a couple of schools reach out to get it in the libraries. Pretty much all of the adults who have seen it have gotten it for their kids. They love it. So it's been, like, very positively reinforced. My mom is in education, and she has actually taken it upon herself to go to some of the organizations in our community, like the allergists and the children's hospitals, and put it in their libraries to make sure that kids would have it there as they're going through any sort of medical visit or doctor's visit. So that's been actually really kind of cool to be just like a little surprise of, like, dropping it here and there, various businesses and institutions. So that's been really fun.
Has any parents reached out to you? Anything like that? Any parents like reach out to you through email for your contact information on your website? Anything like that?
Yeah, they have. Thank you for asking. Yes. Some people actually reached out to me through my website. Instagram has been another big one, that I feel like people will just very easily send a message there. And then through Amazon,
Mhm.
some people have also reached out when they've bought the book. They've gone back and given me their thoughts on what they really appreciated, and left the reviews there, but then also sent me individual notes, which I really appreciated too.
Any like, I'm just kind of curious, anything that touched you? Like, oh, this is a
Oh my
great
God.
message.
Yeah. I had actually it wasn't a direct friend of mine. It was like a friend of a friend of a friend. I got this video of this little boy reading it, and he was learning how to read through this book. And it was just, oh my goodness, so much. I had another girlfriend who has a nut allergy, and her daughter has a nut allergy. And she, just the way that she described the girls' experience reading the book and then getting into the activities, and it just, I actually am kind of getting chills like talking about it, that they were so into it that it was just, I was like, oh my gosh, this book actually matters. Like, it meant something to me to put it out there because it was my experience, but to know this validates other kids' experiences and helps them feel like they're not alone, helps them feel empowered, included, like, okay. That's the big thing, is like, you're okay as you are. You're good enough. You are enough. You're fine. You're okay. And that, oh, it was such a gift to get that kind of a message.
When you mention that, I can think of Miss Rogers saying that too. That is a you're good enough,
Yes.
you're loved, you're,
Yes.
stuff like that. I can't remember the exact saying, but
I
I can
don't,
think
yeah.
of yeah, there's something like that. Well, also
It's,
too, you also have health and wellness programs, your website, Katherine Kise, I'm like, yeah, saying, what kind of programs you offer there? What do you offer?
yeah, so I do everything from individual programs, so one-on-one coaching if somebody wants, very specific, precise coaching against a goal that they have, as well as I've done women's programs, I've done corporate programs. So companies have brought me in to do a presentation in the morning around like a wide-reaching health topic, whether it's stress management or elevating your performance at work and at home. Figuring out your New Year's resolutions and keeping them on track, regardless of what time of the year it is, things like that. And then I would do coaching with various employees who signed up for it throughout the days. I've also done just speaking engagements to, like, again, about a topic that is wide reaching for all of us. And yeah, that's it. So the one-on-ones, the small group coaching, and the corporate events are the primary ones.
Something interesting, something interesting. I'll mention, well, that link will be in the show notes for this episode. Final thoughts. Anything you want to leave with the audience about food allergies and Halloween?
Oh, love that. If you're unsure, ask. Um, and if you sense that a kid feels uncomfortable saying something or speaking up for themselves, just, follow your heart to help them feel comfortable and that they're okay, that it's okay, that they're different.
Well, thank you, Catherine. Thank you much for also where they can connect with you. They want to reach out more and ask more questions, find more about your book.
Okay, definitely. Yeah. So it's katherinekise.com is the website. And then on Instagram, it's at Katherine Kise. And also, yeah, if you want to find out more, the book is available on barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, Target, and Walmart. And Barnes and Noble. Yeah. So it's available widely
Everywhere, pretty much.
everywhere. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Catherine. Thank you much for being on the show today. I really do appreciate. All links will be in the show notes for this episode. I really do appreciate spending time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.